I was scrolling Reddit and this title reeled me in real quick. She posted this in the Ask Feminist subreddit. She says, "How do I get over the judgment I feel towards other women who make decisions I fundamentally disagree with? I think that this is a valid conversation for us to have." She says, "I'm 32, and over the last few years, I've started to feel increasingly distant from some of my friends. I still love them deeply, but I can't ignore how their choices in men are straining our relationship. Here's the thing. These aren't situations where someone is blindsided or trapped in a carefully hidden cycle of abuse. These are men who show almost immediately exactly who they are, often outright abusive, and yet my friends still choose to engage. They see the red flags, practically feel the breeze from them waving, and proceed anyway. I've been unpacking my feelings about this in therapy because I know judgment isn't helpful, but it's hard to sit back and watch incredibly smart, capable, emotionally mature women with high self esteem, fulfilling careers, and great lives, knowingly walk into relationships with people who are clearly harmful. It's not just frustrating, it's heartbreaking. I understand there's a wider context here. Society conditions women to value being chosen over their own well being, but it's exhausting to watch that play out in real time. I don't want to victim blame, and I know the responsibility for abusive behavior always lies with the abuser. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like some of these women are making a conscious choice to ignore the danger signs because they prioritize the idea of being in a relationship above their own safety or happiness. Maybe it's because I've always been someone who prioritizes self preservation. That is important. Self preservation, we talk about it, we need to talk about it more. We do all need to prioritize self preservation. She continues with, "I've had to make tough calls in the past to walk away from situations that weren't good for me, even when I wanted love. And that makes it really difficult to reconcile how my friends, who I respect and admire, can make such different choices. The hardest part is that I can feel my respect slipping for some of them. I hate admitting that, but it's true. If I had a daughter, I wouldn't want her looking at these friendships as examples of how to navigate relationships. And yes, I know the wider problem isn't their fault. It's deeply ingrained in how women are socialized. But knowing that doesn't make it any easier to watch people I care about willingly put themselves in harm's way. These aren't cases of manipulation or deception. These are decisions made despite everything being painfully clear from the start. I'm not a pick me, and nearly all my closest friendships are with women. I believe fiercely in supporting other women, but I'm also really struggling with how to stay connected when it feels like we're so fundamentally misaligned on something so important. I know I need to keep working through this because these are people I love, but honestly, it's been hard to keep showing up without feeling disheartened." And then she says, edit, "I'm also really curious about the change I've seen, particularly as we got closer to 30. A lot of women I'm referring to had normal relationships up until this point, or would be more likely to leave a man when it was clearly, when he was clearly the awful when he was clearly awful. The changes I've seen coincide with conversations that started in late 20s of wanting to settle down, have kids, not lose their chance." I honestly think that this woman is deeply reflective. She's not trying to pass judgment, but the whole piece about self preservation is important. I do think that it is important to have conversations with your friends before you just simply walk away. If you're seeing red flags, it is up to you as the friend to bring that up. Like, you're not doing X, Y, and Z anymore. I can see he's isolating you. I can see he is doing this, this, and this, and we have to at least you have that opportunity to talk to your friends because you have built up a relationship and rapport, so your friend would more likely listen to you than anyone else, and that is her best chance to even get away from somebody who is waving red flags. We have to understand that not everybody sees. I know This person is talking about the glaring red flags, but maybe her friend doesn't see it as a red flag. So have a conversation or try to have a conversation to preserve your friendship and to save someone that you obviously love. But if after that, and this person is putting the relationship over you and you just can't see to her going down that path, then I understand how, you kind of have to pull back a little bit and wait until she reaches out to you. Let's talk about a couple of these comments. Random Uncreation says, if you try switching the word judgment to discernment, what you're doing isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's possible to feel uncomfortable with someone's behaviors without deeming them valueless as a person. Frustrated, heartbreaking, exhausting, these are your true feelings about your experience of witnessing abuse. You're clearly expressing that you're not comfortable with it. A few years ago, I had to set a personal guideline that I can't be in regular contact with anyone who's currently in an abusive relationship. Part of it is because I'm recovering from a lot myself, so I don't have as much resilience as the next person. But also, it's simply because life is short and I'm not obligated to take on extra suffering. Sometimes we have to detach from people we love much as it sucks. It's up to you whether you want to do that, but based on the descriptions I quoted, it sounds like you might be ready. She continues with, that's all just personal advice. From a feminist perspective, I personally don't subscribe to choice feminism. I don't have the right to criticize when it comes to women's bodily autonomy, especially about abortion, but I'm not as silent when it comes to other choices. If someone is actively involving themselves with abuse, I might call it out depending on the context. There's no feminist law that says I can't speak the truth as I see it. I think that if you see someone is getting abused, you should, highlight that to your friend. You don't know if your friend is going to accept it or reject it, but I think you should say something. Mega Vega says, I really like that you said I'm not obligated to take on extra suffering. I recently had a breakup with a friend I had been besties with for several years who went through an abusive marriage and finally got out. I connected her to therapy, victims compensation fund, and a variety of other resources to help her in keeping her home and heal. I did this partly because she asked and partly because I could tell she was too traumatized to seek any help at that time. So this woman goes on to make a really long comment about an experience that she had with her friend. I'm not going to read all of this, but if you wanted to see this, you can. With the People says, there's a lot of societal teaching that are adding to this sort of willful ignorance you see from your friends. Relationships are supposed to be unique and exceptional. Many abusive behaviors are painted as a sign of care and investment, as you wouldn't get angry or upset with someone you didn't care about. And women are pressured to seek relationships more so than men. To an outside observer, it's usually a lot easier to see the red flags without feel good chemicals helping ignore the problems. Abuse tactics work. They take advantage of healthy emotional responses in ways to get you deeper stuck in their relationship. Abusers wouldn't do that if they weren't effective. My wife and I are usually on opposite sides of this coin. I tend to be very empathetic with the victim, while she has your feelings about it and distances herself when someone is consistently lacking judgment. Both are valid. And if you've called them on their BS and they just keep going back, stepping back for your own sake, is totally fine. You don't have to respect their decisions. Unconditional respect for all of their choices is enabling. I think that that was a well thought out response to all of this. You can love someone, you can really care about someone and value a friendship without liking their choices. And it is hard to watch somebody stay, especially when you're warning them or whatever. You can step back and be available if you do still value the friendship. You can be available when they are ready. You can even reach out periodically, but you don't have to actively watch someone harm themselves. I do want to know what you all think. There are no right answers to these things. There are no right answers, just like this comment is very complex. But join the conversation and lend your opinion. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.